Hi, I'm Miss Haley with the Huntsville Madison County Public Library. And for today's craft, I'm going to show you how to make a shamrock door hanger. So it's kind of like a wreath, except it's not a wreath, but it still goes on your door like a wreath. And it's a big shamrock. It's kind of like if you've ever seen the craft activity quilling. It's a little bit like quilling on a really big scale. So it's like a really simple version of that. For this activity, you are going to need a ruler, a pair of scissors, a hot glue gun. This is just a low temperature hot glue gun. No need for high temp here. Some yarn. I have chosen green, of course, since we are making a shamrock. And this shamrock is a 3-leaf clover. It is not a 4-leaf clover. A button. If you do not have a button on hand, or if you don't have a button in a good color, I'm using a green one, but it could be any color that coordinates well with our shamrock. But if you don't have one, you can also use some of the paper, the scrap paper that you have left from cutting our strips, and you can cut little circles. So you could do that as well. And that is just going to be to cover our center mark where there's going to be a lot of kind of glue and it looks kind of ucky. You may also want a pencil. You do not have to have a pencil for this activity, but you may want one. And then you need 3 different sets of paper strips. So you need 3 colors of construction paper. I'm using construction paper for this. You can also use cardstock, but you need it to be at least 12 inches long, whatever paper you use. So construction paper is 9 by 12 naturally, so it works really well for this activity. You can get cardstock in 12 by 12, but a lot of times the sheets of cardstock that are more regular paper size are actually 8.5 by 11, and you do need 12 inches. So in our darkest color, I have cut this to 12 inches by 2 inches, and there are 7 of these. So we have 7, 7, and 7. So lucky number 7. It's extra lucky, our little St. Patty's Day craft here. So we need 7 12-inch by 2-inch strips of our dark color paper. For our light medium green color paper, I've cut that into 10-inch by 2-inch strips. And there are also 7 of those. And then for our white paper, you don't have to use white. You could also use a lighter shade of green, but these are kind of just Irish colors. So I went for white, and you need that to be 8 inches by 2 inches. So they're all 2 inches wide. The only difference really is their length. There's 7 of each of them. So there's 12 inches, 10 inches, and 8 inches. Once you have cut your paper into those strips, we can get started. And I'm going to set them kind of up here where I can grab them easily. We're going to start with one of each. So we're making up the units of our shamrock right now. So to start out, we are going to stack them so that the ends are together on one end. So like that. So you can see my ends are not together down here, but they are all in the same spot down here. And I have stacked them so that, I'm going to turn it this way, so that the biggest one is on the bottom. So I'm going to lift up these 2, and I'm going to take my hot glue gun and I'm going to put a little strip of hot glue down here, just at the base, and I'm going to press my lightest green down onto that, and then I'm going to put another strip, and we're going to press down onto that. Then what we're going to be doing, we'll be putting another strip of glue down here, but we'll be looping this down to it and pressing so that it's forming a teardrop shape. So if we turn it this way, you can see it's forming this sort of teardrop loop shape. So we are going to put a strip of glue right down here on the edge, loop that down. And so we are going in reverse order now. So we went from biggest to smallest when we were attaching them first, and now we are going from smallest to biggest. So another strip of glue down here at the bottom. Loop this one around. And we're only gluing it down here at the base, so we're not gluing it anywhere else yet. We will eventually. But we're wanting to form this sort of teardrop shape with our paper. Once more, and glue that down. So when you're finished, you should have a shape like this. So we're going to make several of these units. But first, before we make any more of these, I want you to take one strip of dark green, one strip of light green, and one strip of white, and just set them aside. So we're going to set these aside. We're going to set them over here, away from my other strips so that I can't accidentally use those. We need those for the stem later, and that's a different process than this. So we don't want to accidentally turn it into the teardrop shape. So we're just going to set one of each size away so that we can't accidentally use it. But we are going to turn all the rest of them into this. So when you're done, you should have 6 of these units. So right now I have 1. So we are going to keep going. So starting with the dark green, I'm going to stack a lighter green on top of it. I'm going to try to keep it lined up so that they're straight. You don't want one going off catty corner. And then a strip. And we're going to put down our white. Like that. And we're going to start looping them back down. Try not to get too close to the edge, just because you'll burn your fingers a little bit. I got a little close to the edge with that last one. You don't have to go, oh no, that's accidentally 2 pieces. Oops. Alright, I accidentally grabbed 2 pieces, so we're going to leave this little loop. Fortunately, I caught it before I glued it down. We're just going to leave that little loop out, and I will show you guys what to do if you've accidentally done that as well. So make sure you're only grabbing 1 piece. Because it'll only really work for the white. If you've accidentally done that with one of the other colors, you're going to have to pull it apart or make another strip. That'll only really work with the inner one. Alright, so now we have another unit. They should all look the same. They should all be white, green, dark green. We're going to just keep working, and we're going to set that aside. So, making sure I only have 1 now. I'm going to put a little strip of glue down here. That's a big strip of glue. Stack on my medium green. A little strip of glue. And now I'm going to stack on this white one that I accidentally used earlier. And now I've already looped that one down. It was already made in a loop, so we're just going to loop over to the next one. And then the last one. And I'm not really waiting and pressing long until I get to this last one. If I'm making a sandwich, I can kind of press and hold it like this until that glue is set. Alright, so now I have 3 of my little teardrop shapes. We're going to keep going. I need 6 of them. And we're doing the same thing for each one. So, strip of glue, stack, strip of glue, stack, until you get to here. And then we're going to loop them down. Again, moving kind of in the opposite order. This is super easy, right? You could do this with regular glue if you had just like a glue stick. like an Elmer's glue stick, you could do it that way too. You would have to hold it a little bit longer. You'd have to really wait for that glue to kind of dry. Hot glue dries really, really fast. Once it's cool, it's pretty much dry. So that's why we're using hot glue. But if you do not have a hot glue gun, or if you just don't want to use one, or if you're not allowed to use one, you can use regular, just like Elmer's glue, just a glue stick. Just make sure you're using plenty. You don't want to use just like a tiny little bit. And make sure that you're holding it down and you're waiting. You can glue them all together like this, like we're doing here. And then once you're in the teardrop stage where it's fully looped, just hold it in that position and just really squeeze it like right here until your glue is set. But you could do this with Elmer's glue. The second phase of this, when we're putting it all together in the Shamrock, would be a little bit harder to do with school glue. You could, but it would take a lot longer because you'd really, really have to wait for that glue to dry. So it wouldn't be as ideal as hot glue would be. Alright, this is my 5th teardrop, if you've been counting. I'm not sure if you guys are moving quite as fast as me, but that's okay if you're crafting along. Or maybe you're watching through and then you're going to make it. I like to do that. I like to watch the whole video first and then make it. That way I know what I'm doing. So this is our last teardrop shape. This should be number 6. Over. If you're a little off, like this one, this green one, it was a little bit not lined up with my last darker green one. That is okay. You can be a little off on this one, unless you're wanting it to lay flat, in which case, maybe not. But it's going to hang up on a door, so we will be okay. All right, so now you should have 6 of these little green shapes. You could totally make a peacock color. Look, if you did these in peacock colors, that could be a peacock tail feather. That'd be really cute. Maybe a different craft day. So you can see how kind of this is like a really just big sized up version of quilling. This is one of the simpler steps in a quilling project. It gets a lot more complicated, trust me. But so you should have 6 of these. And we're going to set them aside. We are going to make our stem now. And our stem is a little bit different. So what you want to do is we're going to start with a white piece. And the measurements are different on each one of these. So sorry about that, y'all. What you're going to do is you're going to take your white. I've lost my pencil, so I'm going to use a pen. You're going to take your white piece. Where's my pencil? I really don't want to use a pen. There we go, pencil. And you are going to line it up with your ruler so that your edge of your ruler over here is lined up with this edge. Let me move it up a little so you can see better. And you're going to make a mark at 3.5 inches from the end. So here's my 3-inch mark. Here's my 1/2 inch mark. I'm going to make a little bit of a mark right there. And then you want to go 3.5 inches from this end. So we're going to count because it's not as easy. But so we're at the 8. So 1, 2, 3.5. So right there. There should be 1 inch between them. So you can also just come 1 inch from here. But I couldn't remember that measurement right now. So we did 3.5 from either end. All right, once you have made those marks, you're going to fold on them. So we're going to fold inward. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it right on that mark. I'm going to try to fold it straight so that when it's folded, they're lined up. It's not like just off to one corner. We don't want to fold it at an angle. I'm going to unfold that. I'm going to fold along the other line as well. It does not have to be precise. If you're just a hair off, it is not the end of the world. We're not making a rocket ship or anything where the measurements matter that much. It's just paper. And then we're going to unfold. So you should have sort of this shape. And we are going to glue them together. So we're going to glue it together in the middle. Only on this white one are we going to do this. We're going to do something a little different with the other two in terms of gluing. But we're going to glue together right there. Because we need the white one to be in the center. So we can't just glue the other ones together. Otherwise we'll have just 3 pieces like this and nothing to do with them. So you should have this shape when you're done. It's kind of a very long triangle. But that is the shape that you should have. So we're going to set that aside and we are going to do a similar thing on this one, but different. So we are going to take our ruler again, line it up so that these 2 edges are flush. And we are going to make a mark at 4 1/4 inches. So that's 4.25. So not 4.5. 4.5 would be right here. So just 4 1/4. Right here. And we're going to come 4 1/4 this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4 1/4. So what you should have between the two is 1.5 inches. If that's easier for you, you can measure 1.5 inches from this one to here. But I find it's actually easier, especially on this one, to come this way. So 4 1/2 from either end. And you should have this right here. So we have 4 1/2 inches this way, 4 1/2 inches that way, and in between is 1.5 inches. And we're going to do the same thing we did with the other one. We're going to fold at that line that we made. And again, I'm lining up the edge so that I'm making sure I'm folding it straight and not just like off to one side. You don't want to fold it that way. You want to fold it straight. I'm going to unfold that. I'm going to turn and I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Get it lined up before I make my full crease. And I'm going to unfold. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and build up before we do our green one. So now we are going to put a strip of glue right here. What I just did, if you saw me, look. So my pencil marks are right here on this side, and my pencil marks are over here on this side. I'm going to make sure my pencil marks wind up on the same side. That way it can be the back side if you're being really particular. Now, probably nobody's going to see those marks if they're in the front unless they come up really close and peer in there. And if anybody does that to your shamrock wreath, you can tell them to go away because that's really rude. But we're going to make sure they wind up on the back side. So I'm going to put a strip of glue right there, and I'm going to stack this one so that the end is flush with that end. Just pretty much like we did with a teardrop. Just a slightly different process. Like that. I'm going to put glue here. I'm going to loop this over and glue that, and then I'm going to squeeze. So you should wind up with this shape now. So we have a triangle and a triangle. Like that. That is going to be our stem. Now for the last piece, the outer one. We're going to do the exact same process, but with different measurements. So again, lining up your ruler, flush on this side, and flush with the edge. We're going to make a mark at 5 inches. This one is easier. So we want to mark here at 5 inches. And 5 inches from this side. Or just 2 inches from that. So 2 inches from the 5 would be the 7. So this one is 1 inch, 1.5 inches, and this one will be 2 inches. So it gradually gets bigger. It's graduated. So again, I'm going to fold along that line. It almost, if you pressed in with your pencil a little bit, it almost wants to fold on that spot. Mine just kind of folded almost on its own there. Because I've pressed in, I've dented the paper a little bit right there when I pressed with my pencil. This one not so much, I didn't press as hard, but you can kind of see as I'm folding it, it almost naturally bends right there, which can help help you fold. Just make sure you line it up before you fully crease all the way across, because the rest of it will not be so nice as to naturally bend. And open it back up. So again, I've got my pencil marks on this side. I'm going to look in here. Okay, my pencil marks are on this side, so I'm going to make sure we're coming down this way. So I'm going to put a strip of glue right there on the end. I'm going to put my inside piece right on top of it and press. And then a strip of glue. Ooh, that is a wobble of glue. And we're going to press, and we're going to just pick it up and hold it and press it together just to make sure it really sets. And now we have the shape, which is our stem. So this is the stem of our shamrock. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get our hanging string ready. So you don't have to decide how long you want this yet. You can if you want. You can kind of go to wherever you're going to hang this up and decide, okay, where do I want it to hang? How long do I need the string to be? But if you get it wrong, we're going to just glue it into our shamrock here. If you get it wrong, all you have to do is tie the loop off. You can even cut the loop and tie it off where you need it to be. So you can adjust it if you get it just way wrong. I don't think I need quite so much. I think I only need, it's still really high. I think I only need about that much. So the place I'm going to hang it, where the hook is pretty close to where I want it to end. So I'm going to just cut a really short loop. So what I've done is I've taken my end, I've brought it around, I've made a loop, and I've adjusted the length to about where I think it needs to be. I don't have my door handy with me right here, so I can't just go and measure it. So I'm guessing I might have to adjust it later the way I talked about, but that is okay. So we are going to cut that, and I'm going to tie it together once. I'm just going to do a really quick, I'm going to hold the two strands together. I'm going to loop them over my finger and just tie a little knot down there at the end. So that way it'll stay a loop and I don't have to worry about it as much. So I'm done with my yarn. What we are going to do is we're going to sandwich this between and towards the back. So not centered. It's not going to be centered right here, but it's going to be a little bit towards the back. And we're going to glue it in between them. And we're doing this so that it'll help it lay flat. I have found that if you just glue it to the back, because that is the other option, is when you've assembled your entire shamrock, you can glue your string to the back of it. But I found when you do that, it wants to lean forward. So instead of sitting flush on the wall, it leans forward a little bit, which is kind of weird. So I'm hoping that this will help it to be less leany. So I want a little bit up. So we're going to do it right about there. So I'm going to put a strip of glue coming down my shamrock here. And I'm going to put my yarn into it. I'm not really going to press it. I'm not super worried about it right now being set because I'm about to do a lot more squishing. So what we're going to do is we're going to squish together two of these. So we're going to make a unit that looks kind of like a heart. So kind of like that. I don't like that one. Let me find another fluffy one. Okay. There we go. So it's going to look like that, and we'll have just this piece in the center. So you want to glue it all along here. You don't want it flopping. So you want to glue it to right about here, where these two kind of part ways. So we're going to take glue, and we are going to put it kind of in a jaggedy line all down there. We're going to start at the bottom because we want those bottoms to be lined up, and we're going to press it together. And I'm going to slip my fingers into here, and we're just going to press it together. I'm going to press it together right here on the outside. Press, press, press. You want it to stay together when you glue it, especially on this one because we have that yarn in the back in between. It's going to want to try to hold itself a little bit more separate. So when it's all together, you should have this shape. And that's all right with the string in the middle. This is the only one that you have to worry about the string being in the middle. This is going to be our top leaf of our shamrock. So we're going to set that aside. And we're going to sandwich now together 2 more. So we're going to make units of 2 each. So again, I'm going to kind of put them together, see where it separates. So right about here. And from that spot on down, I'm going to add hot glue. Except I'm running out. And then again, I'm going to line up at the bottom, join them together, press the bottoms together really good, and then kind of come in here to press the top parts together. And if you don't make it, if you find that you just didn't do it quick enough and your glue dried, you can always just add a little bit more. That's why I start at the bottom. Right, so there's another unit. This is going to be one of our side leaves. We're going to join together our last 2 leaves. So line them up again. Find the spot where they kind of separate. I'm going to put my fingers there and mark it, and then let the other one drop. And we're going to add a lot of hot glue coming down the side. We really want them to be stuck together. Line up the bottoms. You really have to press the bottoms together. The bottoms especially don't want to join. I have found it's something about the shape, they want to spring apart down there. So make sure you press there, and then just kind of press your way up. Stick your fingers in the little loops. We have one more little heart-shaped unit. So you should, at this point, have 1 stem and 3 heart-shaped units that we are going to join together like this. So how do we do it? Hot glue. We're going to start by joining these 2 together. We're going to put hot glue along this edge, and we're going to set it down, and we're going to squish this guy into it like that. And we're going to try to keep them straight as best we can. So this is where it kind of gets a little ugly, and this is why we put the little button or the little circle of cardstock right there, is to kind of just make that edge look pretty. So I'm going to get a decent amount of glue. I'm really squeezing it out pretty thick right there. I'm going to set it down, make sure I'm not accidentally gluing it to my table. I'm holding up a little bit, and I'm going to glue these 2 together. I'm just going to kind of hold them. I'm pressing them a little bit towards each other. It's hard to tell on the camera, I know. Until that glue is set, and ow, I glued myself. Don't glue yourselves, guys. It's not the end of the world, but it's not the best thing either. So again, my top one, make sure your top one was the one with the string. You can break them apart pretty easily. If you accidentally glued the wrong ones together, you can easily pull this part apart. This is the delicate sort of join here. All right, once we've got those joined and the glue is set, we're going to do the same thing with the side pieces, just we're joining them onto the side. This is a little easier, honestly, than that. So I'm going to turn this guy so he's like this. I'm going to put a large amount of hot glue right where I want this one to join, and I'm going to press it kind of like that. So I'm going to be pressing from the back, and I'm going to kind of be gripping this one right here, and I'm going to be pressing it into the hot glue spot. like that. It's just going to be a little hard to see on the camera, but I don't think I can hold it up to show you. So I'm getting pretty decent amount of glue. It's a really globby line of glue, and pressing that guy into the glue. And I lied, I can totally hold this up. Look at me. Until it is set. You do not want to stop before it is set. It will kind of come apart. You can kind of just look into the crevices and see it'll start turning sort of not all the way clear, a little translucent. Okay. And I'm going to add a little glue in here because this one is trying to spring apart. My little heart leaf piece is trying to come apart. So I'm just adding a little dot of glue inside there. I must have been a little rough with it. And I'm pressing it back in. So you can easily kind of fix that if it's doing that to you. Alright, same thing, other side. So right there, I always like to kind of visually line it up before I've added the glue, just so I know kind of where I'm wanting to put it. I'm going to do that side up, because it's prettier. Is this the front or the back? It is the front, okay. So again, really globbing the glue on in a line, thick line of hot glue, and pressing this in. I'm trying to make sure I am directly across from the other leaf. That's the only thing you really need to worry about on the second leaf, is making sure you're directly across from the other one. If you're a little bit off, it doesn't matter, but if you're, you know, more than a tiny bit, you're going to notice that. It's going to be uneven. That's fairly noticeable. All right. Just going to let that sit for a second. It's not quite completely set. So we're just going to let that sit and kind of set. You can see it's still really wet right here, and I kind of, it's not super hot. I kind of want, that's a lot of glue. Fortunately, that will be the bottom of it, so you won't really see that. But that is our shamrock. So we've made our shamrock. That's what he looks like. It's really pretty. The last thing we need to do is add our button to the join, and that is just to cover up this join. So if you look really close, that join is pretty gunky. It's pretty obvious. If you're a little bit off here on the center, I got mine pretty perpendicular or pretty parallel to each other. But if you're a little off, that can be really noticeable. But if you're only a hair off, the button can cover it. So, but you can see the hot glue kind of coming out. It's kind of not the most attractive looking area. So just to cover that up, we're going to put a little button there. So I'm just going to put a little bit of a hot glue dot right there, and I'm going to press the button in. I'm pressing the button in from the sides because my button has holes. If you have a button without holes, that's awesome. Use it. But mine has holes, and if I press in the center, I'm going to burn myself, and I don't want to do that today. So press it until it's set. You can kind of let it go. It's still not quite dry, so we want to leave it. But we have a shamrock wreath for our door. I hope you guys had fun with this craft. I would love to see your shamrocks that you made. I'd like to see your color choices. You could have done a rainbow one. That would be really cool. There are 6 leaves, so you could 100% do a rainbow and then have your indigo or your violet. Is violet last? It's violet right there. I would love to see what you come up with. You could show those to us on our Facebook page, which is Huntsville, Madison County Public Library. You could also send those to our marketing department, which is marketing@hmcpl.org. Those are our initials. Thank you guys.